Hey folks, today I'm doing a commander deck tech for one of my favorite commanders, Blex Vexing Pest. It's not super overpowered. In fact, you might even say it's a pretty low power commander and deck, but I think it's really fun. Let's go to the table and I can show you the breakdown. Okay, so here's my breakdown for the whole deck, and don't get overwhelmed. We're going to go through everything. First off, I just want to show you again the options for the commanders here. So we have the Blex Vexing Pest. He's basically a lord type creature. He gives your pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders +1/+1. We also have a good amount of rats and some other creatures like squirrels in here that sort of count as like pests that he doesn't buff, but it still fits thematically, and that's one of the reasons I like it. If he dies, you gain 4 life. The other side of him, which you can also cast from the command zone, allows you to basically dig top 5 cards of your library and lose some life. So if you're really in a bad pinch, you can always sacrifice him, recast from the command zone, the backside, in order to dig for some cards. The other commander that we could use is either Valentin, Dean of the Vein, or Lizette, Dean of the Root. This one, basically, if you gain life, you get +1/+1 counters. This one, if a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it, and you can pay in order to get a 1/1 pest token. So lots of pest interaction going on here. So let's put those over there. These are the inserts, so depending on which commander you want to use, we'll just put those off to the side. So let's see. Let's start with the creatures. This is a pest deck, of course, right? So technically we have another green and black legendary creature, Chatterfang, who is extremely strong that you can use, but I just almost always use him as just a creature because, like I said, the deck is very low power. The deck is just for fun. Commander's supposed to be kind of wacky and just a way to mess around, right? I'm not super hardcore on being competitive, and that's why I play Commander. So you got Chatterfang, which allows you to basically make squirrel tokens whenever you make other tokens. Super powerful. Blight Beetle, very low power insect here, but I like that creatures your opponents control can't have +1/+1 counters put on them. That's sort of a little bit of like a hate card, which can be strong depending on who you're playing. We've got Virus Beetle, another insect, feels very pesty. Arasta of the Endless Web basically allows you to get some spider tokens. Creekwood Liege, I really like this one because not only does it pump your black and green creatures, which pests are, but it also gives you a 1/1 black and green worm at the beginning of your upkeep. So every turn, if it goes unanswered, that's a pretty good card. Lotus Cobra is a snake, so it's sort of, on par for getting buffed by Blex. It technically counts as, one of his pest type creatures, but it also allows for a little bit of mana ramp, right? So it's really helpful early in the beginning of the game, and also if you play with fetches, you could get 2 mana with this on the turn that you play the fetch. So that's super, super helpful. Willow Dust, this is one of the original commanders from the black and green Strixhaven deck. I just like it, that's why I include it, but it also allows me to put some counters based on life gain. Pests basically allow you to gain life because when they die, you gain 1 life. So there's a lot of other life gain things that you'll see in this deck and video. Deathrite Shaman, the best 1 mana planeswalker they ever printed. It does everything. So this I recently picked up from Ravnica Remastered. Always wanted one. It's finally cheap enough, so I got one. Guillaume gives you food tokens, can make things indestructible. Again, he was another commander from the Strixhaven deck, but I just wanted to keep him and include him. So we got a Nut Collector. Basically gives you a squirrel. So like I said, even though squirrels are not technically pests, based on what Blex buffs, there's still a lot of just like pest type creatures in here, right? A lot of small 1/1 green and black creatures. So Nut Collector gives me some squirrels. Demon's Disciple, this is essentially removal. I can play it, get rid of one of my pests, gain a life, make everybody else sack something hopefully worthwhile. Locust Miser is a rat. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 2. So this is kind of just a hate card to make sure that my opponents aren't getting too far ahead, even though my deck is pretty low powered. Pack Rat, I love the art on it, and it's a rat, right? So gotta have it in the deck. This was another recent include from Ravnica Remastered. Really like it. So Pack Rat's definitely in there. I got the anime version. Callous Blood Mage Comes in, he's a modal, so you can choose different stuff. You could draw cards if you really need to. If somebody's playing Reanimator, get rid of their deck, or their graveyard, sorry. And then you can also choose to give yourself a pest token if you need it. Piper of the Swarm, basically just more rats, right? Can't have enough. Hooded Hydra is just really good because he comes in with counters and he can turn into snake creatures when he dies. I really like for the synergy and also just snake tokens, right? Drider is a not very well-known card, but basically when he does combat damage, you can create a black spider, a 2/1 token. So that's really good. So those are all of the creatures. The next thing I want to show you is everything's broken up a little different than most places would probably do it. I don't want to talk about just sorceries and instants and artifacts. You know, I'll talk about their roles rather in the deck. So this is kind of we've got rampant growth, we've got cultivate, and then we've got ecological appreciation. Sometimes, you know, maybe we're just not getting our big creatures out, the really impactful ones that we need. This allows me to dig through the deck and get those onto the battlefield. Put those up there. The next thing I want to talk about are the artifacts. Some of these are ramp, some of these just contribute to the overall goal of the deck. Moon Silver Key, I will play this in almost any deck that I can because it's incredible ramp. It can search up a Soul Ring, Soul Talisman, anything like that. It can still search up an Arcane Signet. Anything that has a mana ability on an artifact, this can find. So it's very, very powerful. Arcane Signet, obvious include, just like a Soul Ring for most decks, in that it's an auto include as long as you're multicolor, more than likely. So Pristine Talisman, again, we have a little bit of synergy with gaining life, so we want to include that. Heraldic Banner, basically just choose a color when you come in. Those creatures get +1/+0. So this helps a little bit because pests are so small. They're only 1/1s. So this helps get in a little bit more damage, you know, naming green more than likely. And then we can also use it as a mana rock. So it's pretty good. Soul Ring, of course. Early mana, fast mana is good. Talisman of Resilience, I'm sorry. Another example of 2 mana for a quick mana rock. Chitter Spitter, just give us a few more squirrels. Plus, you can buff your squirrels +1/+1 for each acorn counter that you put on it. So that's really useful. Tithing Blade is just a low power include that I really like. When it comes in, everybody sacrifices a creature. And when you craft it or turn it over, basically at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain life. So it's a little bit of passive damage to your opponents, as well as helping that life gain synergy in the deck. Signal Pest is a pest, so of course had to include him, and he makes your creatures stronger when he attacks. Skull Clamp, this is probably one of the most powerful cards in the deck. All of your pests are 1/1s, so this is the card draw tool, and you want to try to protect this as much as possible. Basically attach it to any of your 1/1 creatures and you're going to get 2 cards. Very, very good. Pestilent Cauldron allows us to create a pest and do some other stuff, but mainly just creating pests for exchanging cards in your hand. Another one of the more powerful cards in the deck, Alharmet's Archive. Basically, if you gain life, you gain double that. If you draw a card, you draw twice that, right? Very good card. Like I said, this deck in general is very low power, but there's a couple powerful cards that if you hit them, can sort of keep you on the board with some of the other more hardcore players. So those are the artifacts. Next, I want to talk about enchantments. I have some other enchantments, but we're grouping, remember? So the first one is Wilderness Reclamation. We want to be doing things every single turn and keep mana up because we have a lot of interaction in this deck that I'll quickly show you. Wilderness Reclamation basically lets us have all of our mana up when we go into an opponent's turn. Hissing Miasma. Whenever a creature attacks you, its controller loses 1 life. Basically a less punishing form of No Mercy. I really like this. I used to have No Mercy in here, but I thought it was too strong, so I took it out. Whenever a creature you control dies, gain 1 life, draw a card. So this is great with all of your tokens. Vampiric Rites. Of course, you're going to want to sacrifice stuff all the time, whether it's to prevent your opponents from stealing it or just because they're pests and you might need a little bit of life gain. This allows you that card draw, gives you an additional life. Unnatural Growth is a great card because Like I said, most of your creatures are going to be really small, even your commander's a tiny little guy on his own. So every combat, right, you're going to get to double your power and toughness of all your creatures until end of turn. So just very, very good whenever you're going into combat. And on your opponent's turn when they're going to attack you, suddenly your creatures are twice as big. So that's just generic enchantments. The next thing that I want to show you, well, quickly we'll just do, here's the card draw. Their Skull Clamp is probably the biggest one, but we have Deadly Dispute, which is a great card draw. Rowan's Grim Search allows us to bargain, but also it's just your standard draw 2 cards, 2 life, instant speed. It's underpowered, but I don't really mind that. Healing Technique basically gives me a card back from my graveyard, so if they kill something really powerful, like my Archive or a Skull Clamp, let's get it back, right? So that's pretty much all I have for card draw in the spells area. But let's get into the interaction. Usually people have, I don't know, 3 to 6 pieces of interaction in their deck, which is not very much, especially in a multiplayer game. I have a ton, and I think maybe, if anything, that's where the power of this deck comes from, is the interaction, right? Doing something with your opponents, engaging in their board state, not just worrying about your own. So, if somebody's blowing something up at the table, it's probably going to be me. Let's start here. So we got Reckless Spite, basically 2 creatures, hopefully, with 1 card. Putrefy, just love the art on that. That's super cool, but destroys a target artifact or creature, can't be regenerated. Lignify is a fun sort of lower powered card these days, but basically turns someone's really interesting activated ability creature into a 0/4 blocker, unless they can get rid of it. So I really like it. Force of Vigor is just a strong destroy 2 artifacts or enchantments, and you can cast it for free if you exile a green card. So if you don't have mana up, it can still be useful. Mage Hunter's Onslaught, this is a low power interaction piece. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, and then whenever a creature blocks this turn, its controller loses 1 life. So this is sort of like, I'm going to destroy your big guy, and then I'm going to try to go all in with all of my pests. And if you block, you're going to lose life even before my pests hit you. So that's why I like that one. Beast Within, sometimes you got to get rid of a pesky land or just something, right? So target permanent, it's great. Taste of Death, everybody sacrifices 3 creatures. Hopefully for me it's just pests. And then I create 3 food tokens, which can help me get some of that life back if we're low in the game. Deadly Brew's kind of fun. Everybody sacrifice a creature planeswalker, and if I sacrificed a permanent, I can return another permanent card from my graveyard to my hand. So it's kind of like card draw while still putting everybody at a disadvantage, hopefully. Pest Infestation is the best. Destroy X target artifacts or enchantments, and then I can create twice X 1/1 black and green pests. So just gives me tokens and allows me to remove stuff. Very, very handy. Feed the Swarm, really great. Just destroy target creature or enchantment. You'll lose life. In decks that don't have green, this is very strong, or white, I should say. This is a very strong black card, but I like it. I think the feeling of it, the flavor is really good. Consuming Vapors, target player sacrifice a creature, I gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So because you can't choose, you kind of want to hopefully target something big. So when you use this is sort of specific to the scenario. You don't just want to throw it out as early as you can. And it has Rebound as well. So you basically get 2 spells for 1 card. And then Heroic Intervention, this is sort of interaction. It basically just gives my permanents and whatnot indestructible hexproof to prevent like a mass board wipe or something. Okay, really quick. We have 2 planeswalkers. Ob Nixilis lets me draw cards and destroy creatures, and Grist the Hunger Tide, who basically makes insects and mills me. This is just very flavorful, so I like having him in there. Finally, let's get to all the cards that have to do with tokens, whether they're enchantments or sorceries or whatever. So here we go. Blight Mound gives my pests +1/+0, and whenever a non-token creature dies, I get to create a pest. Very, very good. Cloakwood Hermit, so this is a background for your commander. So as long as your commander is out, at the beginning of your end step, if a creature was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create 2 tapped green squirrels. So, gives me more tokens. Trudge Garden, if I gain life, I can pay 2, and I can get a 4/4 beast with trample. So that's very strong for only 3. I really like that one. Curse of Clinging Webs. If a non-token creature enchanted player controls dies, exile it, and I create a spider. So that's a really good curse. Squirrel Nest, I can put it on my land and tap if I need a blocker or just another token to do something with. Pest Summoning, create 2 1/1 black pest creatures. This is obvious include because I'm running pests, right? I need the little creatures. This is my Doubling Season insert, and I don't have my fancy card down here. But Doubling Season also makes everything better, whether it's counters or planeswalkers or my tokens, right? Which I'm going to have a lot of. Verdant Command basically allows me to create some squirrels, but also counter like a planeswalker ability, which is pretty strong. All right, getting down here to the end, let's talk about the lands. So first up, here are our sort of basic or utilities, right? We got Command Tower. Everybody's got Command Tower. Evolving Wilds lets me do a search for maybe what I'm looking for. Swarm Yard is great because I can regenerate insects, rats, spiders, or squirrels. No pests, but there's a lot of insects, rats, spiders, or squirrels in this deck. High Market, if I don't want something stolen, I'm just going to sacrifice it, gain a life off it, prevent my opponent from taking my stuff. Temple of the False God, a little bit of mana ramp. It's slow, but it's an include for a low power deck like this. I got a couple of single color utility lands. So Witch's Cottage allows me to put a card from a graveyard on top of my library. Gingerbread Cabin allows me to create a food token when it comes in. And then Sapseed Forest basically allows me to gain life and work with those life gaining synergies. We got quite a few duels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Got 11 green-black duels. So you can just check them out. Some of them are good. Some of them are not very good. That's probably one of my better ones. Necro Blossom Snarl. Restless Cottage. Restless Cottage, very good. Creates food. Dark Moss Bridge. Witherbloom Campus. Temple of Malady. Golgari Rot Farm. And then let's see how many basics I've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 swamps. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 forests. So you can see that the deck seems to be favoring black, and I'd have to go through and make sure that my counts are still accurate, but I'm guessing I have quite a few more black symbols than green symbols in the deck. That is my overview. Sorry if it seemed like I was rushing it. I'm trying to keep the video as short as possible, but there's a lot to cover here. So that is my Blex Vexing Pest deck. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, it's kind of a lower powered deck. It's not supposed to be super competitive. Sometimes you just want to do fun, goofy things, and for me, Blex completely satisfies that. But I really like this deck. It's fun to play. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. As always, I really appreciate the support. We're getting really close to some of our goals, so keep subscribing. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.